Testing, testing. Thank you, everyone, for attending tonight's regular City Council meeting. For the record, it's November 7th, 2024, and the time is 6:30 p.m. I'll begin with the roll call, so Council, when I call your name, please say here or present. Mayor Maxton.
Here.
Councilmember Stroop is not present. Councilmember Roden.
Here.
Olvera.
Here.
Kerner. Here. Parker.
Here.
And Menchow is not present. So with 5 members of council present, a quorum is declared.
Thank you, Christina. Would everybody please stand and please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And a reminder to everybody that's here tonight, we do live broadcast these meetings and would like to welcome everybody that has joined us here in the room and all those that are joining us as part of the live broadcast. A reminder to everybody that if you do get an opportunity to speak as part of the meeting, if you're here in the room, we ask that you use the microphone that's up here at the podium. And the reason for that is if you speak from your seats, the individuals that are watching by live broadcast cannot hear the comments. If you do get an opportunity to speak, I ask that you introduce yourself. If you're a resident, introduce yourself. And if you're a resident of the city or not, and if you're with an agency, please state which agency you are from. And we did not have anybody sign up for Citizens to be Heard. Is there anybody here tonight that didn't get an opportunity to sign up that would like to speak? All right, and with that, we'll move on to our presentations. We have 2 presentations tonight. And if I could get my finance department, or the finance department, to please join me up here. I know how you like to be recognized. Accounting Professionals Day is this Sunday, November 10th. And so tonight we'd like to recognize those individuals that make up our finance department. Summer Fleming, who's the department head, Julie Lovelace, Andrea Cervantes, and Keely Burnett. And so thank you all tonight for all being here. You know, as we look at it, we can recognize the big ticket items that our finance department always takes care of. And so one of those is budget. And, you know, 6-month process, well, for y'all, it's probably a year-long process, and developing the 5-year budget. But also in that, we know that you manage the day-to-day operations that go through our finance department, and you do that phenomenally. But some other things that you may not realize that is on their plate: managing our city investments, financial planning, working with appraisal districts and revenue collection, quarterly reporting to council, auditing and internal controls, debt management, payroll, procurement and contracting, investment management, and financial policy development all fall on these 4 individuals. And I would like to say that all done extremely well to support the operations of what we need to run a city government. So I'd like to thank y'all very much for what you do every day. And we are blessed and proud to have such professionals as y'all as part of our finance department here at Fair Oaks Ranch. So thank you every day for what you do. We do have a proclamation that we'd like to provide to y'all. And whereas the city of Fair Oaks Ranch is fortunate to have a dedicated and talented financial team whose commitment to transparency, accuracy, and excellence has set a high standard in municipal financial management. And whereas this outstanding team has consistently demonstrated superior performance, earning recognition from the Government Finance Officer Association, GOFOA, for their achievements, which include the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award, which was received for 5 consecutive years, the Popular Annual Finance Reporting Award for fiscal years 2020-21 and 2021-22, And then certificates of achievement for excellence in financial reporting, which was earned for the last 7 consecutive years. Pretty phenomenal. Whereas in addition to these distinguished awards, the city's finance team has been honored with the GOFOA Triple Crown designation for 2021 and 2022, which is a rare and prestigious achievement that recognizes the team's extraordinary accomplishments in financial reporting, budgeting, and transparency across multiple platforms. And whereas the exceptional performance of the city's finance team not only reflects their dedication and skill, but also serves as a vital foundation for maintaining the fiscal health and public trust in our city. And whereas these dedicated and credentialed professionals continually strive to meet the highest standards of ethics, professionalism, and knowledge by maintaining and enhancing their skills through continuing professional education. Now and therefore, the City Council of the City of Fair Oaks Ranch recognizes November 10th, 2024 as Accounting Professionals Day and further extends appreciation to our finance team. And we ask the citizens to acknowledge the outstanding financial stewardship of our finance department provides the city every day and ensuring the financial strength and integrity of our community. Thank you all very much. Can we give them a... That's for you. Thank you all very much for everything y'all do. Then Joanna, are you going to do the recognition? We have a new employee to recognize also.
All right, thank you, Mayor, City Council. My name is Joanna Merrill. I'm the Director of Human Resources and Communications, and today I am thrilled to introduce the newest member to our team, Clint Kirprick. I knew I was gonna get it. As the newest member of our team today. So Clint is actually joining us as our new maintenance supervisor. He brings with him a very impressive background and extensive experience in both operations and fleet management. And prior to becoming a member of the Lone Star State, Clint was formerly a resident in the state of Iowa, where he gained most of his work experience. So now once he transitioned down here to Texas, he took on a critical role with one of our local partners over at Bernie ISD, and eventually he found his way to our team. So through his commitment to safety, strong leadership skills, and his hands-on approach in maintaining infrastructure, it is making him an invaluable addition to our team. Clint has a proven track record in recruiting and training staff, managing maintenance programs, and ensuring that operations run efficiently and safely. And his diverse skill set, from overseeing kind of large fleets to planning strategic maintenance projects, shows just a deep dedication to quality and community service that we're looking forward to having here in Fair Oaks Ranch. So please join me in welcoming Clint to our Fair Oaks Ranch team. Thank you.
We have 4 items on the consent agenda tonight. First is the approval of the October 3rd, 2024 regular city council meeting minutes. Did I miss something here? That was the first item on the consent agenda. Second is approval of the first reading of an ordinance amending the city council meeting rules of procedures, identifying procedures and guidelines for the approval of council member absences from council meetings. Third is approval of council member Stroop's absence from the October 3rd, 2024 and November 7th, 2024 regular city council meetings. And last, approval of council member Parker's absence from the September 19th, 2024 and November 21st, 2024 regular city council meetings. Is there any council member that would like to remove an item from consent to consideration? With that, then, could I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
A second.
And a second, motion from Keith and a second from Laura. All in favor of approval of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda is approved. We have one consideration item to look at tonight, which is a consideration and possible action to cancel the January 2nd, 2025 City Council meeting. And I'll open this up for discussion with council. We have currently on the calendar, first Thursday of the month in January is January 2nd. It's the day after New Year's Day. We looked at this. The winter break is still ongoing for schools, and being right after New Year's Day, took a look at possibly canceling this. Our charter requires that we conduct one meeting a month, and so we would still have the January 16th meeting scheduled for that month. And speaking with the city manager, there'd be no impact on city business by removing this meeting. And any questions? Any questions from anyone here tonight? Then can I get a motion to cancel the January 2nd, 2025 City Council meeting?
So moved.
Scott?
Second.
And from Ruben. Any further discussion from council? Then with the motion on the table, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. And then we have two workshop items on the agenda for tonight. And the first item is looking at the Old Fredericksburg Road interlocal governmental agreement with Bexar County. And I believe our city manager, Scott Husengay, is going to kick this one off.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. I'm Scott Husengay, City Manager, and this workshop will discuss the proposed or draft interlocal agreement between the city and Bexar County for maintenance and reconstruction of Old Fredericksburg Road. I'll quickly walk you through the background, current conditions, proposed solutions, and what I think are the benefits of this draft agreement. Quick history on the road, at least from this year. Early this year, Bexar County notified the city via email that they would no longer maintain this stretch of Old Fredericksburg Road, specifically between I-10 and Detail Corn Road. According to the county, they said the city should have annexed this section in 2017 when the city annexed adjacent properties to the east of the road. However, at the time, the city contended that because there had not been a formal annexation process, that we do not own and do not have responsibility for the maintenance of this road. Chapter 43 of the government code, local government code does state that when annexing land, municipalities must also annex the entire width of any adjacent county roads, which is what the county was citing. The challenge is that the code, the local government code, does not say what happens if the road or the right-of-way is already covered by another jurisdiction. And as the map shows here, while the city did annex the properties to the east of the road itself, as well as the properties to the west, fall within the city of San Antonio's extraterritorial jurisdiction, or ETJ. San Antonio's maps show this. San Antonio's staff confirmed this, and Bexar County's maps at the time showed this as well. Currently, the roads, you can see in the photos, the current state of Old Fred is less than ideal. Years of wear have left significant potholes and deteriorated sections throughout, including on the shoulders, as you can see. Given that it is not currently a city road, this road or this project has not been included in the roadway CIP program or, of course, the bond program, because that was approved prior to this issue. So to tackle these challenges, Mayor Maxton and staff recently met with Commissioner Grant Moody from Bexar County, as well as Bexar County Public Works staff. The county proposed a draft ILA, which is in your packet for reconstruction and maintenance of the road. Under this agreement, Bear County would manage the reconstruction of the road itself, leveraging its existing construction and maintenance contracts, at which point the city would take on future maintenance responsibilities after the road is reconstruction. In the current version of the draft that's before you, this arrangement allows us to address the road's immediate needs and ensure its upkeep moving forward without addressing the ownership questions that may remain complex because of those jurisdictional boundaries that I discussed on the prior slide. The estimated cost of this reconstruction project is approximately $1 million. Again, under the proposed cost-sharing agreement, Bear County would cover 2/3 of this amount, with the city contributing 1/3, so there's a little rounding there. I think this contribution from Bear County significantly reduces our immediate financial burden and enables us to move forward without deferring potentially other maintenance projects that we have scheduled. Analysis benefits citizens. This project aligns with the strategic plan to enhance and ensure roadway reliability. The agreement with Bear County, I think, not only promotes regional cooperation, but also, I think, offers a mutually beneficial path forward for both jurisdictions. And by rehabbing Old Fred Road, will address the safety and reliability concerns that have persisted under county maintenance, which benefits our residents and other road users along that stretch as well. So today we're seeking a council direction on a few key questions. Should we proceed with the proposed interlocal agreement with Bear County for this reconstruction and future maintenance? That's, of course, the most important question before this body. Is 1/3 cost share acceptable given the long-term benefits to the infrastructure in the area? And of course, are there any other considerations or adjustments that the council would like to seek as we seek to formalize this arrangement? So quickly, in summary, I think the ILA offers a practical solution to this longstanding problem for addressing the condition of Old Fredericksburg Road, which frankly has, in my opinion, not been addressed under Bear County's jurisdiction. With the county managing the reconstruction and covering 2/3 of the cost, I think we achieved significant improvements for a modest investment. Bear County has indicated that they believe, while it's $1 million estimate, that through leveraging their contracts, they hope it could come in lower than that, i.e. they could probably get a better price than we could. The draft ILA avoids the complex annexation questions that we discussed already. It does not force the issue one way or another as far as who quote unquote owns the road. So from our vantage point, in terms of the ILA, while the city would maintain it, it would in effect remain a Bear County road in its current form. So I think with that, happy to take questions, direction, comments.
Well, I'll kick it off just to get some conversation started. Scott mentioned that we met with Grant Moody, the commissioner in Bear County. And honestly, when I contacted Grant, purpose of what I wanted to meet on was how do we find a solution to repair this road? And that's why we met. During that process, we never discussed ownership of the road. And I think it would just lead to further disagreement because a lot of the people on the Bear County staff believe that road should be a part of Fair Oaks Ranch. And there's reasoning there that says why it should or it shouldn't. And there's reasoning why it was not included as part of the annexation because it was in the ETJ of another city during the time frame we did the annexation. Grant came forward. He was ready to work out a deal for finding a way to get this done. And so he offered up a solution, which is being proposed tonight. I think it's as we represent the residents in Fair Oaks Ranch that live along this road, I mean, that is their primary access to their residents. And the road's in pretty bad shape. And I feel some responsibility that we find a way to get the road repaired for them as part of the city. And once repaired, if included as part of our maintenance program, which is part of the ILA, then we would continue to provide that maintenance, and it would become a part of our road maintenance program into the future to maintain this road. Now with that, we take on the responsibility for the road, but at the point right now, we don't own the road. And some of the questions that come up with that is you saw the disrepair to the road that was really caused, a lot of that caused by, I believe, a SAWS water line that was put in along the road. And the permits for that road were issued by Bexar County.
Correct.
And without ownership of the road, if something like that were to come up in the future, without us owning the road, those permits would have to go back through Bexar County, and we'd really have no say into what happens along that road. So in looking at this, if we went forward and said, yes, we like the ILA and it's something we want to do, and we were able to reach an agreement with Bexar County and the road gets repaired, I think there is a point in the future, maybe after the reconstruction of the road, that we want to take a look at it and how do we make ownership of that road fall within the city. Go ahead.
I hear everything you're saying, and I'm good with everything except for us taking responsibility for the ongoing maintenance. So if we want to come to this agreement to fix the road now and pay 1/3 out of the cost because it's a problem right now that needs to be solved and we have a plan going forward, I don't want to stop that right now. But I'm not ready to sign up for perpetual maintenance of a road we don't own, especially if they're going to pull permits and break up the entire road and then tell us to fix it. I'd be good with signing it, but removing clause 4 under services, under section A, and not address the ongoing maintenance in the ILA, and just address the one-time repair. And then we would still have to address this situation, but I don't want to do it. I don't want to sign up a council in perpetuity for maintenance of a road we don't own yet. That's what I don't want to do.
That's a good point.
I absolutely agree with Laura. When I became aware of this, taxpayer dollars at fixing a road that we don't own. So, sorry, the hearing aid. Yeah. I have initially had a problem with that. I do see this as a solution that will save us money up front, but we need to, I also see that we need to address the ownership issue, not right now, then in the future. And I agree with Laura, we don't want to continue to take ownership or pay for something that we don't own. But being on that piece of road going back and forth to Strudy's all the time, it's pretty torn up. And it is a dangerous road going in and out. No matter whether it was a SAWS project that did it, it needs some serious reconstruction. And if we can get the county to kick in a good portion of this money, that's to our benefit. But we do need to address the ownership of the road at some point here.
I have the same sentiment for the same reasons. Two other questions I had is, did the estimates, was that done by our team or by Bexar County, or was it mutual?
It was mutual, both the estimates as well as the actual inspection. Both of our public works staffs met physically on the site to determine which portions could be done with mill and overlay and base repair versus the full depth reconstruction, which is the estimate you see. So it was a mutual estimate. We worked
So
together on,
not being
used the same contractor, engineer.
Not being in construction, is that like a short-term Band-Aid just to get it up to snuff immediately, or is it something that will hold up long-term?
This should be, as far as the repair itself, this should be a long-term solution. As I think the mayor mentioned, it would presumably be incorporated into our maintenance program, so we would do the fog seal and the rejuvenation, those types of programs that we do with all of our streets. But this is a fix that, actual condition should vary, but, generally speaking, should last 20 to 30 years with proper maintenance.
And sort of along the lines of this ownership issue, if there was an accident on that street, if saying we don't own it, and I don't know what Bear County's saying, but who responds? Like who responds to that if there's an accident on that road? And if we
It's-
don't know that answer,
No, we know that answer, but I smile kind of glibly because that has been a matter of contention and confusion with our public safety staff and with dispatch. So we've had to clarify a few times where basically dispatch was splitting the road down the middle. So we were saying if there is an issue, make sure you call us. So we have been responding to that.
Okay.
But that has been a point of confusion, to your point.
so like I think that's another potential issue with the ownership question, is because we don't want a situation where there is an emergency, life-saving care is needed or whatever,
Absolutely.
and we're looking at Bear County and Bear County's looking at us.
Right.
So how many residents does this road serve? Do we know?
I don't recall how many actual properties are on it. But it is designated as is it a collector or a connector in our plan? But obviously it serves the school traffic and the main path to Dietz Elkhorn. So traffic counts will be much higher than the number of properties on the road.
I think, and probably in concert with other council members here, ownership, I think, is important for all the reasons mentioned. But it looks like the county is recognizing their negligence by coming in with some dollars to put the road in condition. I kind of think you should go, I'm echoing, I kind of think we should go back, and my perspective is, I don't know when that road was fixed last, and maybe y'all know or don't know, but two things come to mind. Have them bring it up to par today for current, fix it today. We don't put any money into it. As part of that, they work with us to get ownership to the city and work with City of San Antonio to release the ETJ so that we do take it into our city proper, and then we take care of maintenance going forward. So that would solve, I think, some things, because part of the problem is paying taxpayer dollars for something we don't own is a little problematic, but it could be solved with the agreement. And I would not be comfortable doing anything without having the ownership issue addressed as part of that agreement. I think that would have to happen. I would hate to even if we agreed to do this today, say, well, down the road we'll work on something to own the property. I think that needs to all be linked together. I mean, that's just my take on it, because it's a little different situation than some of the other roads we have. I mean, yes, there is traffic on that road, but for us to pay for their lack of maintenance or their negligence in maintaining it seems a little out of scope. But the fact that they've already come in with 2/3 means they recognize that. So I don't think we lose anything by going back to them and saying, hey, here's our offer, is a suggestion to bring it up to par, work with us in the city of San Antonio to get ownership, transfer it into Fair Oaks Ranch, and then we take maintenance going forward. That keeps us, that puts the road in the proper perspective for our own residents and for the traffic into our city. It also keeps us from spending money in a kind of a quasi, working arrangement that it just didn't fit. It doesn't seem to fit. But that would be my suggestion as one of the alternatives to consider, to go back to the county. The other thing I thought about is whatever we agree to, that I would absolutely want to be sure that we have ownership addressed in that agreement, whatever.
Sure.
Even if we agree to this, like the third, two-thirds, if we decide that makes sense, we get ownership, and it might make sense to do that as well. But I think that's kind of key in my thoughts. So that's a good start.
Is the ownership, can it be tackled through an agreement like this, or is there a different formal process?
Not directly. This agreement was premised as essentially a cost share, which would be somewhat typical, at least until recently, how we would sometimes do state projects, where if there's a state road within a city, there was a required cost share. The state has since done away with that, but at the time, that was fairly typical. I think there is a path to annexation, if you will, and as I see the city attorney getting his microphone ready. But we cannot do that unilaterally. It is within San Antonio's ETJ, so effectively, while I don't see Bexar County opposing that, we would have to work with the city of San Antonio as well for them to release at least the road portion from their ETJ prior to going down that path.
And for the agreement itself, whatever, assuming there is some sort of agreement, whatever's in that agreement, I'm assuming it has to be voted on and passed by all Bexar County commissioners? Do we know that?
The agreement, I believe it would. I don't know of their exact procurement processes, so I shouldn't speak to that formally, but a project of this scope, I would
It would
think
make
that's
sense.
likely, yeah.
Okay.
I don't have anything really to add. Yeah, interlocal agreements have to be approved by both governing bodies. And as Scott alluded to, it's really not, there's really nothing else we can do about this until it's released from the ETJ. I mean, as long as it's in City of San Antonio ETJ, we cannot annex it. Bexar County's relying on, the statute says exactly what Bexar County says it says, which is if we're going to annex adjacent property, we have to annex the county roadway, including the right-of-way on both sides. I mean, that's what state law requires. But state law also will not allow us to do any annexation of property that falls in another city's ETJ. And so it has to first be released. That was not done back when those annexations took place. San Antonio, they're a great partner to work with, but nothing happens quickly. So I'm not sure when we reach out to them what that timeline would be as far as getting any. There's no reason for them not to release this from their ETJ. There's no financial benefit for them to keep this road in their ETJ. They're not maintaining it. They're not required to maintain it. It's just within their ETJ. So it's really a question of timing, how soon that could happen, I would suspect.
Dan, is it reasonable to think we could put together an agreement with the county that said, we'll work with this process to annex it, and upon that successful annexation, then this agreement would kick in? Is that's a way to operate?
I mean, certainly you could. The county, if once you take this into the city, the county has no further motivation to contribute whatsoever.
All right,
if it's
okay.
with the city. And we kept referring to it as ownership. I don't like calling it ownership. I mean, it's just a matter of whether or not it falls within your city and your maintenance requirements. But yeah, I mean, I would rather have it repaired up to standards before you take it into your city, or the county may not. They don't have any obligation to participate.
If that's the council's desire, though, I think we could sequence it in that
We
in
can
that
certainly
fashion.
try.
Right.
Where we repair it first and then, contingent upon full reconstruction, then pursue annexation.
Yes, we could do that.
Then at that point, we wouldn't need this clause in the ILA, because obviously if we annex it, then it will be part of our city. So that's what I would be fine with signing this, so we can get this fixed. Not a super big fan of paying for a portion of it, I get it, but if that's what we're gonna do to get there, then let's do it. But I wanna remove that clause. I don't want them to feel like they don't have to worry about it anymore.
And I don't expect they would object to that.
I differ on one point. I don't, want- to your point earlier, I don't want to give that, are you talking about the perpetual maintenance clause?
Yeah, I'm taking that out.
Yeah, okay, got it. Can you go back to the county and see if they'll do more?
I can certainly ask.
I mean, that would be my thought.
No, I think, I mean, I think to your point, I don't mean to be joking about it. I think your point earlier is well taken about what the rationale for kicking in as much as they have. And if we're offering to formally annex it into our city, thereby relieving them of any question of long-term maintenance or permitting, I would think that's a benefit to the county.
Know the last time the county did any type of maintenance on this road?
I do not. I don't. I'm aware of the 2022 permit DeSaz that the county authorized or permitted. That's all I'm aware of.
Okay. The reason I ask is if before we annexed next to it, they had not maintained it for 20 years, then that's an argument we can make. Just say, you should have done it for 20 years before this even came up, so why are we now paying a portion of it?
Agree.
Just because they thought we owned it for the last 7 years, why do we have to pay for the entire reconstruction of it when they have been negligent in doing it for however many? That's gonna have to be part of our negotiations. Because if they haven't touched it for 15 years, why am I fixing that for them?
I think that's my point too, is that, they're behind on maintenance, and let them bring it up to standard maybe, or see how close we can get
At
to
least for
that.
negotiation of costs
Yes.
sharing.
That's it.
I find counties have been really quick to just randomly pick 2/3, 1/3. Every time we negotiate with the county, they come with, I'll pay 2/3, you pay 1/3. Not just this county, but other agreements we've had with counties. That's their first starting point, and I don't know if there's any numbers behind that.
So technically, since we cannot annex it due to the ETJ issue, they still got it,
Yes, we believe so.
technically, right? I mean, so it's on
It
them
is a county road.
to maintain, even though they put their sign up
Right.
and tried to do it that way, they still own it and maintain, well, they own the maintenance of that road. So I think we got a good place to go back.
That is our perspective on it. That is correct. And they will take a different perspective on it by citing the one government code that says we should have annexed it.
Saying we should have done something and us actually having done it are two different things. We did a formal annexation vote with very, very specific boundaries, and it was not in there. So they can't just declare we annexed it because we should have annexed something. They can't just do that. We didn't. We actually took a vote with boundaries, and that was not in it. They can't then go back and retroactively change my vote when I voted for that. I didn't vote for that section. I voted no, but just to be clear. Okay.
And I think, Mayor, the fact that, like Dan said, we can't just take over an ETJ, so we're really precluded to execute on that state law. I mean, it's one of these parent situations where there is a no man's land here that we need to do it, but we couldn't just go to take over San Antonio's area. And so therefore, we really don't have responsibility for owning that road yet. We want to. We'd like to take it, but yeah, I think
I
that's
understand
where
your
I see
point.
it. Yeah,
And I agree with it.
okay,
I mean, that's the point that we're taking.
yeah.
I'm just telling you from the position of Bear County that they're going to fall back on the one piece of government code that says when we annex property up to a county road, that we should have annexed the entire road and the right-of-way on the other side of the road. And
But they acknowledge we didn't. So then now claiming we annexed it is counter argument, right? So they acknowledge when we annexed, we did not annex the road. They can't come back and say, you magically have annexed it because you should have. I mean, they can't say that. didn't annex it, whether
I understand that
they,
point,
yeah.
and I'm not sure. I mean, maybe you
And
help me explain
I
it.
suspect they acknowledge that, and that's why the agreement was drafted in the form that was, with that ambiguity, for lack of a better word, that, for everything we've talked about, you know, that, yes, the state law says this, but that therefore, as of today, it is, I think it is a county road. And they could, and I think that's difficult to argue with for the reasons stated.
I would think from a negotiated position, if they felt that strongly that it's ours, that this agreement would be a little bit different. So,
I think the agreement's a good start, right? I think it's a good starting point for going back to them. So I think you're on the right path.
Okay, so starting point, so,
My preference, Mayor, would be to go back and say, use Laura's logic, which is absolutely correct, and the fact that we couldn't, we can't just encroach on an ETJ by law, that they failed to maintain the road. We wouldn't be that, we'd be a little more diplomatic, but they failed to maintain the road up to standard. Bring it up to standard, and we'll go annex it. We'll go work with the City of San Antonio to annex and take it off their hands in the future. That's just in my mind, a way we should approach it to see if we can get them to do more of it rather than just us putting up money first and still not owning the road. It just feels odd that way.
And
No,
if,
that makes sense to me, and I'm confident we can get there. Again, I think that does have a benefit to them in a number of ways, including financially. I think there is value there to that proposition.
Okay.
That gives me what I need, Mayor, unless there's other questions for me.
I just, and I agree with the points on ownership, and I fully support all that. Just to make you aware, I mean, going back and saying that they take full ownership may spur them to say that, no, you now own the road because of what our beliefs, and the only may erase the ILA, the interlocal agreement, and their position may be take us to court. And that's why we stayed away from the ownership piece of this. And I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I just want people to be aware that if we're going back and that's the process we're going to go through, that could be a possibility.
But I don't know. Oh, go ahead, Laura.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, you've talked to 1/5 of Commissioners Court, and some staff members that have a strong opinion.
That's correct.
Right. Okay. I think there's other discussions we can have before somebody walks away from the table.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see the risk being very great that they're going to take you to court. I think before they did that, they would seek clarification or seek an AG opinion as to these conflicting statutes, because there's no doubt there's conflicting statutes, because they're saying we should have done something that the law prohibits us from doing. And so that's not going to go to a court. I mean, that's something that would go for an interpretation from someone else, because we're not allowed to annex property that falls within someone else's ETJ. And so when the boundaries were drawn, they were drawn to stop short of the San Antonio, where they abutted San Antonio's ETJ, that boundary stopped, because it has to. And, I guess theoretically, we could have asked San Antonio to release that, but we're also not obligated to do that.
Would there be a risk if we, on our own, requested an AG opinion?
I don't think I would. I just don't think I would do that. I think the solution is what you've discussed. I mean, I think if it is part of the county road system today, indisputably, and if that ILA, if the terms are changed where the city will assume maintenance upon annexation, and that we will, when it's completed, seek release of that from San Antonio's ETJ or something like that. I mean, I think that's the solution you're going to get to, whether you do it now or after an AG opinion, or if they somehow decide to take you to court over it. Those are the steps that must happen, because as everyone's correctly stated, they have been responsible for that maintenance from whenever until this date, and remain responsible for that maintenance whether they want to be or not. Wishing we'd done something doesn't make it so, right? I mean, and we were prohibited from doing it. And so, I mean, I think everybody can agree that that's what needs to happen, but those steps have to specifically happen before we're responsible for it.
So what I understand, the position that we want to take, or through the ILA, is that we want to pursue that Bear County would be responsible for bringing the road up to the standard that the road should be at today. Is that correct? And then, as part of that agreement, once completed, we would say that we would pursue the annexation of taking full responsibility of the road. Is that?
I think so. I think it's really just a matter of dollars here, right? We just say that the council's open to the idea. We feel like y'all should bring it up to par. I mean, it's a working relationship kind of negotiation. It's not like our way or the highway, or our way or the roadway. I should have said it that way. But I think, yes, that would be, I think, at least see where it goes and see how their response is.
Yep.
Is there a preferred timeline for this, like where ideally you'd like to see some movement to where we could actually get the road up to standards?
I don't know Bear County's process exactly, if it
Yeah.
went through Bear County contract, but I would really like to see something start this spring or summer.
Did they
And
say
I
how
don't think there's
long,
any reason not to.
they say how long the work would take? Regardless of who pays for it, do we know how long
I
the
don't
actual?
recall that, Grant. I don't know if you remember. I don't know offhand, sorry.
Kind of remember a news article that came out. Bear County was so proud of all the extra money they got to fix all their roads, and it's their number one priority. So, big press release about this.
Well, who knows, they may be able to go back and chase money from
Yeah.
the SAWS project, right? Because a good amount of that damage was done due to that project. But that's on the county. I mean,
Yeah. But again, I think in many respects, taking this back to them, I think they will see that to their benefit. I'm very confident they will work with us.
Got all you need?
That's all I need.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Scott. The second workshop that we had on the agenda for tonight is the Dietz Elkhorn Road Traffic Study Concern Follow-Up. Grant?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor, Council, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Grant Watanabe, the Public Works Director for the city. And this presentation on Dietz Elkhorn traffic safety concerns is in response to a request from a council member at the last council meeting for staff to look into this issue. Starting off with a little bit of background, a Dietz Elkhorn Road corridor study was conducted back in 2020 to 2021 in response to traffic and safety concerns. This effort involved data collection and analysis, including traffic volumes, speeds, percentages of truck traffic, origin and destination trends, crash data from the police department, as well as drone footage. There was also input from a project stakeholders group. That group was composed of a city council member, representatives from Public Safety, Public Works, BISD, and FORHA, and also several residents. This study produced several recommendations, various short, medium, and long-term solutions, and these were presented to the City Council in the 2021 timeframe. So this slide just shows a sample of the data collected as part of the study. It included speed data both on Dietz Elkhorn East and Dietz Elkhorn West, and the charts you see here are some of the results for Dietz Elkhorn West. The current speed limit out there is 35 miles per hour, but the average speed is 32.5 miles per hour, and the 85th percentile speed is 39.5 miles per hour. And for awareness, the speed limit was 40 miles per hour until it was reduced in 2017 to accommodate golf carts. So following the study as part of the FY 2021-22 budget, a total of $175,000 was included for various Dietz Elkhorn Road safety improvements. These included extension of the right turn lane into Van Raub Elementary School to increase queuing there, improvements to the Dietz Elkhorn Chartwell Lane intersection, for Dietz Elkhorn signage, including radar feedback signs, chevrons, and other type of signage. And lastly, crosswalks with pedestrian activated devices. Ultimately, these funds, the $175,000 was used toward the Dietz Elkhorn Road Chartwell Lane intersection safety project. That project was awarded in May of 22 and completed in November of 22. Now, there was also a budget amendment to increase the funds for Dietz Elkhorn safety improvements, but those funds were also largely used for the Chartwell intersection improvement project as well. If you recall, as part of that project, there was some discussion about whether we wanted to implement a four-way stop or implement a pedestrian-activated crosswalks, or maybe even something that kind of looked like a traffic signal. Ultimately, the city council at that time decided to stay with what was existing, which was just the yield signs. There were some radar feedback signs that were purchased, but they were not installed on Dietz Elkhorn because of the upcoming Dietz Elkhorn reconstruction project. That project is going to remove a lot of the signage that exists already in order to accommodate the widening of the road. Moving on to recommendations, the residents' request had two parts. The first was to advise when speed monitoring signs, radar feedback signs, intersection warning signs, no truck signs, or other types of signage would be installed on Dietz Elkhorn Road. Right now, staff does not have any plans to install any additional signage. And the second part of that request was to consider reducing the speed limit on Dietz Elkhorn West from 35 miles per hour to 30 miles per hour. Both signage and speed limit change requests fall within the purview of the Transportation Safety Advisory Committee, and staff is recommending that these requests be referred to that committee, and I believe they will be meeting for the first time on November 15th, which is next week Friday. That concludes the presentation, unless you have any questions.
So the 4 items that were, I wasn't here, so in 21, 22, the 4 items that were budgeted, the money went to 2 out of the 4 or 1 out of the 4?
2 out of the 4.
The Van Raub right turn lane and then right here.
It was the Chartwell intersection improvement right out here, and then radar feedback signs were purchased, but they just weren't installed on Dietz Elkhorn.
Okay.
Grant, at that time, if I remember right, so we'd made the decision to do the Chartwell intersection, and we had estimates that came in, and we increased the amount of funding needed to do that. And as part of that, we also included requirements to put crosswalk or whatever else was needed at Chartwell and Dietz, and the radar feedback signs. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then at a later time, we came back and we decided, no, we did not want to do any
The pedestrian
crosswalk,
activated
pedestrian
crosswalk.
access across that.
That's correct.
And then ultimately, we did buy the radar feedback signs because we have 2 of the permanent ones in the city. And it was brought back to council, I believe because of what you mentioned, the redesign of Dietz Elkhorn Road. But then also, we looked at safety improvements needed on battle intents. And the decision was made to move them to battle intents due to the bus pickup, maybe,
Yes, sir.
along battle intents.
There were a lot of complaints about speeding and vehicles passing stopped school buses, correct?
Okay.
Does TSAC have anything on the agenda?
Oh, they have a lot of things on the
Okay.
agenda.
The first meeting will be primarily organizational in nature, but yes, my understanding is they are getting their share of suggestions.
You know, as part of that, we have the 2 permanent radar feedback signs on Battle and Tents, and I believe they're impactful. They make when people are coming up the hill, I've seen them in front of me, and when their speed gets displayed that says slow down, I think all the drivers that I've seen that go past speed, by the time they get to the sign, they've slowed down to get their speed in. So my belief is that those radar feedback signs work, and I believe we bought 2 more, or budgeted for 2 more this year, permanent ones and 2 temporary ones.
That's correct.
And it may be something that, maybe even something we could take back to the Transportation Safety Advisory Committee and look at what are the locations across the city where we may need permanent signs. And it may be more than just the 2 that we have or that we've budgeted for this year. And maybe we can look at that as a plan and where they need to go into the future and maybe spread it over multiple budgets or budget it all at one time. I don't. It's just alternatives, things that we can look at.
The ones we budgeted for this upcoming year have not been allocated to any specific location, right?
That is correct. Right. But we do have funds for 1 permanent set of signs and 1 set of mobile signs as well.
Any other questions? Answer all your questions.
Yeah. So do we refer it? Would it even be handled at this next meeting, or they already have a full agenda?
It will not be on their first agenda, but staff would bring it back to their subsequent meeting.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Grant.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Is it related to the?
Little hard of hearing. Rich Nichols, I'm a resident, Fair Oaks. On the Fred Road discussion, it has now been decided that there will be no mutual maintenance between Bear County and Fair Oaks, 2/3 and 1/3. Is that correct? It's not going to go forth that way. Is that correct?
From the discussion that we had, that's not the position that we want to start off with.
Okay. The
So we're
reason I-
still negotiating the ILA.
One of the things that concerns me is that if we do a mutual maintenance project with Bear County, and Councilman O'Vera brought up the fact that if there's an accident on the road, who responds to it? But I was thinking, if there's an accident on the road, on Fred Road, and during the accident investigation that the road conditions were partially or the cause of the accident, it could be a financial significant thing for Fair Oaks if there's injuries and things of this nature, and it was caused by partial conditions of the road. That was my concern. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. And we have one report from staff tonight, and Summer Fleming, the finance director, is going to present the 2023-24 preliminary year-end results in our quarterly investment report.
Yes, thank you. I am Summer Fleming, the Director of Finance. And so this is the preliminary unaudited year-end financial results. And then we will do the quarterly investment report. Now, the audit is currently ongoing, so we may have some adjusting entries as we wrap up. However, I don't anticipate anything substantial, any changes from what's being presented tonight. So overall, the city had an eventful and successful year. While there were too many to list on one slide, I think these are some of the most impactful achievements that demonstrate council's commitment to ensuring our financial stability while also providing reliable and sustainable infrastructure and responsible growth management. Early in the fiscal year, council had established the Ad hoc Bond Advisory Committee, which met through the months of October to May. That resulted in a successful bond election and the sale of general obligation bonds and certificates of obligation. Staff implemented the council-approved Oak Wilt program, collaborated with the Planning and Zoning Commission for a review and revision to the Unified Development Code. We continued the advancement of multiple projects in the capital improvement plans, and we maintained a level of reserves that helped the city earn a AA+ bond rating and stable outlook from S&P Global Ratings. So in addition to these achievements, financial results showed strong outcomes in all revenue categories. So starting with the general fund, the largest revenue source is property tax, which accounts for 60% of the general fund budget. We have collected 99.2% of the 2023 tax levy, and that exceeded budget by almost $200,000. Sales tax, which is our second largest revenue source, exceeded budget by $105,000, and that was up 7.5% from the prior year, which is better than we had originally expected. Going down the chart, franchise fees, permits, court revenues all had increases to budget as well. And then the city did have another year of significant interest earnings, exceeding budget by $234,000 in the general fund alone. Again, the budget last year reflected an anticipated drop in interest rates, which we are only now starting to see. But overall, general fund revenues totaled $11.5 million, which is $850,000 higher than budget. So again, property taxes, we collected 99.2% of the year's tax levy. And then this chart just shows that the city does have a history of high collection rate on property taxes. Also, as I mentioned, sales tax exceeded budget and increased 7.5% over last year. You can see how the increase in the last 3 years, though, has softened from that initial jump during COVID. And looking at new residential growth, the city issued 8 more new residential permits this year than in fiscal year 22-23. However, that number is still much lower than the 2018 to 2022 timeframe, but overall permit revenues exceeded budget by $23,000. Looking at general fund expenditures, actual expenditures totaled $10.5 million, which is a savings to budget of a little over $1 million. We have $351,000 encumbered for purchase orders not yet fulfilled, so that portion of fund balance will be reserved for those encumbrances. And over half of the $1 million savings is in personnel due to vacancies. Specifically, the administration and public safety departments had the highest cost savings. There's also some savings in maintenance and operations. One was for the annual street maintenance program. So this year, the total cost of fog seal, micro seal, and asphalt rejuvenation came in less than budget, and we did not have to incur any of the contingency costs from those contracts. And there was also some cost savings in the services category for various contracts and services. But in total, for the general fund, actual revenues exceeded expenditures by $1.03 million. So that's resulting in a projected ending fund balance of $7.65 million. Now of that, I did mention $381,000 is allocated for encumbrances, and then we did budget for a small deficit in fiscal year 24-25. The restricted and non-spendable balance is $227,000. That's made up of prepaid expenses for fiscal year 24-25, and that includes the court and public safety restricted revenues. There's the $150,000 that's assigned for the tree mitigation fund, but the largest portion of the fund balance is the general fund's 6-month operating reserve. That totals $4.7 million. And then what's remaining is the unallocated portion of fund balance, and that is projected to be $2.16 million. So are there any questions on the general fund results before I move on to the utility? All right, so the utility fund in total performed well also, ending the fiscal year with a projected operating income of over $677,000. And looking at the revenue by division, water operating revenues exceeded budget by almost $800,000. Now that's due largely to drought surcharges. The utility has been in stage 2 drought conditions since August 2023. And while those surcharges put us over the budget, water consumption did decrease 106 million gallons from the prior fiscal year. The wastewater operating revenues fell short to budget by almost $107,000. And as I've reported in the prior quarterly reports, that actual winter average volume was a little bit less than what we originally estimated at the time the budget was prepared. But both water and wastewater non-operating revenues exceeded budget. Those non-operating revenues include impact fees, capital and debt service fees, and interest earnings. The impact fees collected this year exceeded budget by $277,000, and interest earnings exceeded budget by $128,000 in the utility fund. So for the utilities operating expenditures, they came very close to budget. There's just a projected savings of $80,000 and one encumbrance for $21,000 that will carry forward to next year. This slide has changed from what was in the original packet, though. There was an error in the budget figure on that capital purchases line. The amount on the screen, the $1.26 million, is correct. I also updated the amount for actual purchases. Those came in after the report was prepared. So inclusive of the encumbrances, capital outlay is over budget by about $15,000, but that overage is covered by savings and other expenditure lines. So all combined, the utility is adding $926,000 to net position for a projected ending net position of over $18.6 million. Now, most of that is in the utility's investment in capital assets. That's the utility's infrastructure, plants, lines, buildings. That equals almost $10 million. And then the operating reserve totals $4.8 million, and that represents 10.5 months of the utility's operating expenses. There's $2.9 million in the water and wastewater capital reserve funds. That's for capital projects that are still in process and for future capital projects. The equipment replacement reserve totals $680,000. That's for the scheduled replacement of the utilities' vehicles and equipment. And then $337,000 is reserved for debt service payments. So as I mentioned, the audit is ongoing right now. It should conclude in January, at which time we'll close out the year-end process with the resolution assigning the final fund balances and roll over the continuing appropriations for encumbrances. And then in February, the Finance Department will begin drafting the annual comprehensive financial report, and we'll also update the 5-year financial plan. So we know this new year, fiscal year 24-25, we'll be negotiating for fire and EMS services, as well as advancing more projects in the CIP. So the long-term financial plan will be updated to include these considerations, as well as the actual results of the fiscal year 23-24. And then that plan will be useful for council in the upcoming budget process to help ensure that our financial resources are used efficiently and in line with our strategic priorities. So in March, the audit results and final financial report will be presented to council, and then we will submit that financial report to GFOA for consideration in the awards program. And then our goal is to come back in April to present to council the updated 5-year financial plan as we begin the budget process for fiscal year 25-26. So the full financial report is included in the agenda packet, but are there any questions on the preliminary year-end results before I go over the investment update?
Good.
Okay. So the city ended the fourth quarter of the fiscal year with $27.9 million, and of that, about 95% is in the government investment pools and 5% is in Frost Bank for operational purposes. The city did receive the GEO and CO bond proceeds totaling $7.3 million on September 26th when we closed. So that accounts for most of the increase in the investment accounts. Investments earned $274,682 just in that quarter, and fiscal year to date, the city earned a total of $1.13 million in interest. The investment pools still continue to provide competitive rates and contribute to the city's ability to meet future obligations. But the full investment report is also in the packet, and you can find more information on each pool as well as a comparison of interest rates. Are there any questions on the investment update?
Good?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Summer. With that, we'll move on to announcements. Does any council member have any announcements they'd like to present? All good? I have several announcements. The Fair Oaks Ranch Police Department is partnering with the Bernie Police Department and the Kendall County Sheriff's Office this year for Blue Santa. They'll be accepting toys and identifying children in the community recipients of the Kendall County Blue Santa Toy Drive. Families in need can stop by the Sheriff's Office, the Bernie PD, or the Fair Oaks Ranch PD to obtain an application. We're also looking and asking the community to help by supplying new, unwrapped toys for boys and girls for ages infant to 16 years old. Donations can be dropped off at multiple locations from now until December 18th. And drop-off boxes are located at the Fair Oaks Ranch Police Department, Parker's Ice Cream, the Spotted Deer Coffee Shop, the Fair Oaks Ranch HEB, Fair Oaks Emergency Room, Texas Roadhouse, Fair Oaks Ranch Country Club, and the Cibolo Creek Community Church. Next, the Fair Oaks Ranch Homeowners Association, along with the City of Fair Oaks Ranch, will be honoring our veterans at the annual Veterans Day ceremony and peace tree lighting. The event begins at 5:30 p.m. on November 11th. That'll be Monday, and it will take place in the parking lot at the Fair Oaks Ranch Country Club. And please come join us for this big event. Next, City Hall will be closed on Monday, November 11th, in honor of Veterans Day. And then the last announcement that I have is yesterday I was notified that Councilmember Munchow has submitted her resignation from the City Council due to personal reasons. And as a result of that, we're working with the City Secretary, and we will have to hold a special election sometime in the future, and we're working on the timeline for that. Scott, anything else I missed?
Nothing further.
Does any council member have anything that they would like to add to a future agenda? It is 7:45. We are going into executive session tonight. Pursuant to Section 551.101 of the Open Meetings Act, the Texas Government Code of Quorum of the governing body does hereby convene into closed session under Section 551.071, consultation with an attorney to discuss related to possible terms and conditions necessary to resolve disputes that have been the subject of ongoing litigation with the development commonly known as Bernie Ranch Estates, or also known as Fair Oaks Meadows. And Christina, I have the time now is 7:43, and we are going into executive session. Can you hear me
We're
okay?
back, Mayor.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Wait.
Christine, I have the time now is 8:36, and we are back in open session. During the time frame that we were in executive session, there were no decisions made that required a consideration back in open session. Christine, anything else we missed or anything else we need as part of the meeting?
No, sir.
Scott, anything else from your?
No, sir.
And I have the time still is 8:36, and we are adjourned.